It's the story that has everyone talking. A man is released from prison after serving 18 years for a crime he didn't commit. What are the chances it could happen again? In the controversial 10-part documentary series, Making a Murderer, Steven Avery is exonerated by DNA evidence nearly 2 decades into a 32-year sentence for sexual assault.
Oh, hello.
How are you?
Oh, pretty good.
How did it feel?
It was wonderful.
Finally free, Avery sued Manitowoc County and its officials for $36 million, alleging they intentionally ignored and even buried evidence that would have proved his innocence. According to the lawsuit, multiple witnesses involved with the case even supported Avery's claim. The officials themselves could have been on the hook for a big chunk of the payout. But as the Netflix series shows, just before a settlement could be reached, Avery is arrested again. 25-year-old photographer Triessl Halbach disappears. Her last known location, Steven Avery's family-owned scrapyard. In the docuseries, cops are quick to point the finger at Avery.
Do we have a body or anything yet?
I don't believe so.
We have Steven Avery in custody, though.
In the documentary, not long after Triessl goes missing, her car is found barely concealed on Avery's property. His blood is found inside the vehicle. And most damning of all, Triessl's car key is found in Steven's bedroom. It was the 7th time police had searched there, raising Avery's defense team's suspicions of a setup. Were cops planting evidence? Then, under police interrogation, the suspect's own nephew confesses to helping commit the crime.
We went in there, we tied her up, and he stabbed her, and he told me to cut her throat and cut her hair off.
Eventually, cops find Triessl Halbach's remains in a burn pit on Avery's property. It seemed like an open and shut case, but was that confession coerced? Almost immediately, Brendan Dassey recants, claiming police forced him to implicate himself and Steven. In the documentary, Avery's defense team alleges a police conspiracy, accusing them of planting everything from the key in Steven's room to the DNA evidence found in Halbach's car. The defense claiming cops did have access to Steven's blood from his false conviction. And, suspiciously, the seal on his evidence file was found broken. Spoiler alert. The series ends with both Avery and his nephew being convicted for the first-degree murder of Triessl Halbach. But in a court of public opinion, the case is anything but closed. In the aftermath of Making a Murderer, hundreds of thousands of viewers have signed petitions to free Steven Avery and his nephew Brendan, convinced they are innocent or, at the very least, deserve new trials. But in an explosive new Nancy Grace Show interview, Avery's ex-fiancée, Jody Stokowski, who in the documentary was one of Avery's biggest supporters, now says the jury got it right.
So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, do you believe Steven Avery killed Triessl Halbach?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because of the way I know he is.
Capable of murder.
Yeah. Hurting people. If he doesn't... He told me once, excuse my language, all bitches owe him. Because of the one that sent him to prison the first time. We all owed him.
How do you explain what they see in the documentary?
It was all an act. He told me how to act.
So after all this time, it's been 10 years about? Why are you talking to me? What do you want people to know?
The truth.
Which is?
What a monster he is. And he's not innocent.
So then, what is the truth? Has Steven Avery been falsely accused for the 2nd time in his life? Or was he truly a murderer in the making all along?
I want to bring in now former prosecutor Loni Coombs and also defence attorney Alison Triessl. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us for this chat today.
Happy to be here.
Having us.
Let's start with the first big question. Alison, we've got a situation now where almost 500,000 people have signed a petition saying we need to get Avery and Dassey out of prison. This is completely unjust. Do you think they are right?
There should be outrage. This is a call to action. In this case, there is a presumption of innocence in this country, and in this case, both of these people were presumed guilty.
What do you think, Loni? I mean, is it a case of lightning striking twice, if you like? I mean, can this guy be that unlucky that he will go to prison wrongly for the first crime, and then this extraordinary series of events takes place where it happens again?
Right. It's not a matter of percentages. It's a matter of a continuing scenario here where the law enforcement agency had it out for this guy. They had a motive to go after him. And once the first case ended up being incorrect and he was exonerated and he was out, remember at the time that Triessl was killed, he was the poster child for the Project Innocence, for legislators who were holding him up as a true victim of the criminal justice system. And the bad guys were the law enforcement.
And money.
And money.
And money.
Millions
a lot of money.
dollars was at stake
that
here.
Insurance was not going to cover. So they could actually
Personally
be personally liable.
Personally liable.
Money.
And so those two officers, especially the ones who end up finding all of the evidence in this new case, Link and Coburn, are the ones who are on the line personally, not only for losing their jobs, but perhaps for millions of dollars to pay to this guy.
Well, there were some pretty outright claims that the cops had planted evidence. How did you feel about that?
I feel like evidence was planted because they thought he was guilty, and to make sure they got the slam dunk, evidence was planted. And I also feel like it was okay because he was guilty.
I want to focus, Alison, on some of the new things that emerged that viewers might not be aware of. Some of this other evidence that wasn't covered in this special, which was the fact that there was also some DNA found under the hood of the vehicle that wasn't mentioned. I mean, how could, even if the cops have, as we suspect, maybe tampered with the blood vial, how do we explain that claim that his DNA was found under the hood of the car?
The standard is if one of these pieces of evidence is in question, you should question the entire case. So when you talk about the key, when you talk about the blood in the car and how there was no blood found anywhere near the crime scene. A stabbing and the way they describe this murder, and if Brendan's confession, his coerced confession, is to be believed, he slits a throat and there's no blood found, very questionable.
And it took a number of searches to find that key that you mentioned as well.
Yeah,
well,
which I don't understand. Can you guys clear that up? How is that even allowed that you can go in 7-8 times? Is that heard of?
An 8-day search of a location
where the family's out of the house?
Right. And the crazy thing about this is usually planting evidence is a laughable defense. As a prosecutor, I go, oh, yeah, right, what are you talking about? You have to have access to the suspect's DNA. You have to have access to the places to plant it, which will implicate him. And you have to have officers who are willing to put everything on the line to do this. In this case, you actually had all of that. You had these two officers, Coburn and Link, who had everything on the line. They had access to the blood DNA of Steven Avery from the prior case.
The prosecutor here in his closing argument said, well, so what if they planted the evidence? I mean, that's how sure he was that he was going to get a conviction at any price. So what? So what that these officers planted evidence? Because we know he's guilty, good people of our town. We know. And our good officers, look, we got a conviction and we took a horrible person off the street. If everybody believed that that's how you handle justice in this country, that at any price you convict people, we would have anarchy.
The bottom line is, even if he did do it, the misconduct that was done in these first cases needs to be addressed for the protection and the integrity of the justice system. Send them back. Let them have new trials. Start over again outside of that county. Look at where the evidence came from. Don't just assume that you can put in planted evidence. If the prosecutor's going to admit this was planted evidence, it shouldn't be admitted into court.
Matt, before the trial even got started, of the 130 juror questionnaires, only one thought that they were innocent before the case started. You are presumed innocent, yet only one believed them to be innocent.
That should have been grounds for them to get the case moved outside of that jurisdiction, to get at least an impartial jury to start with, because That's where it ends, is with the jury.
But you know, people are talking about it, and I think that's what's important.
Yeah.
This started a conversation that needed to be had.
Absolutely.
And people want change, and they want justice, and they want it the right way.
That's right.
And now people that maybe didn't think this mattered because it didn't touch their home or their lives, now they know it matters for all of us, and that's what's important.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is really important that came out of this is people didn't really believe that people could be coerced into confessing. People never thought that. Now you see it happening, and you know what? It does happen.
Yeah.
Most certainly, I think it's not the last we've heard of this case, to say the very least. Thank you for the insight, ladies. We will, of course, keep you updated with any developments.